5 years. 5 years that I've been in Bali. 3 years. 3 years since COVID has started. 1 year. 1 year that I have been trying to make an impact on my community, an impact on my environment, and an impact on myself. What can I do to show people how to use their voice? How can I give people a choice? It's hard when you're stuck in this rotation of people telling you, if you want something, then speak. But what about the people who don't know the words, who don't know the rhythm, who don't know how to stand up and say, help? Asking for help is much harder than it appears. It's just one word. How hard can it be? Some say it makes them seem incompetent, weak, or inferior. This is most common men. Growing up, I was always aware of toxic masculinity, but my parents made it clear to me and my brother that everyone should be able to cry. A person I would look up to was my dad. He was never scared to show his emotions. One night, I was watching Everything Everywhere All at Once with my mom and my dad, and towards the end of the movie, I was bawling my eyes out. I was looking at my mom, she was sobbing, and I was looking at my dad, and he was crying too. But I was curious if they would tell the truth if I asked them if they were crying or not. So at the end of the movie, when we were all going to bed, I asked my mom, "Did you cry?" She said, "I cried so much." So then I asked my dad the same question. I asked, "Did you cry?" Do you guys know what he said? "Heck yeah, I did." And then we all high-fived. Even though this was a small moment, a moment that may not seem like much, that moment made me feel not ashamed. Not ashamed that I was crying so hard that I had to go to the bathroom 3 times so I wouldn't get my own snot and tears in my mouth. Some sad people can, without difficulty, tell us what's troubling them. I'm sad my dog ran away, or I'm sad my family member can't come to my graduation, or that I'm feeling excluded from my friends. And this may not be obvious, but most people with depression are not able to do this. They may be crying and they may not be able to get out of bed, but they can't put their finger on what's draining their life. Clinical depression is a mental disorder, and it won't go away just because you want it to. It lingers, and it interferes with one's ability to play, work, love. It can change your appetite, sleeping too much or not enough, feeling worthless, slowness, loss of energy, and thoughts of suicide. Having this and not being able to explain it can lead you going through this constant circle of frustration, of feeling empty, not knowing why you're feeling empty, not being able to tell people why you're feeling empty, and feeling that deep hole inside of you. And yes, you can temporarily fill that hole. You can distract yourself with friends, parties, video games, substances, and even self-harm, but nothing lasts forever. And it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to get stuck in this rotation where short-term happiness, there's ways to speak without speaking, to show what you're feeling, and have a healthy outlet for everything that is caught within, and that's how I want to help. The beginning, a point of time where something starts. My project began with me wanting to make an animation. My idea was to make a short video about the differences between healthy and unhealthy relationships, because there's so many relationships that may seem good, but are actually draining, and how to find that fine line of what is okay and not okay. I started doing my research and writing a script. A thing I learned about animation is that it takes a lot of time and patience. The thing I learned about myself is that I am not patient. Whenever I would animate stuff, I never had that spark of joy. Yeah, it'd be cool, but it wasn't me, and I needed it to be me. That's when my mind opened up and I got my project. I want to help people learn how to express themselves with art. But then someone said to me, what if they don't like painting? And then I had a realization. I hear people say all of the time that they are bad at art. A perfect example of this is my friend Gala. I used to hear her say all of the time that she is bad at art, but that is not true. She is an amazing storyteller. She is the best writer. She has directed a play. She has even written a 458-page novel. Her work is beautiful, and it is art. Just when most people think of art, they think of painting or drawing, but it can be so much more than that. Art can be anything. Now look around the room. What do you see? Look down at your clothes. What are you wearing? Now, look outside if you can. What do the trees look like? Now, everything I just pointed out is art. I know some of you might be thinking, trees. Trees aren't art. And some others might be thinking, we all get it. Nature's cool. But whatever created our universe, created our world, has thought a lot about this, and it hasn't always been this way. The world has evolved to create beautiful creatures and beautiful sceneries. So I truly believe that whatever created this is an artist. That's why the trees can give us oxygen, the coral give fish a home, and the sun can fill plants and even ourselves with nutrients. So with this belief, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to take the kids who had a constant battle in their minds, tell them to lower their sword and say, it's okay. You have great powers with these hands, now use it. Because if someone said that to me when I was struggling and when I couldn't get out of bed, then maybe I wouldn't have to feel so alone for so long. So there I developed my idea into something real. I'd take the students who wanted to take the next step of art, who wanted to create something real, something that is themselves. Or the students who didn't see themselves as artists and were a bit hesitant to create. Maybe they were scared, or maybe they didn't want to fail, but see, if I could show them, teach them that making mistakes are mandatory to becoming an artist, then maybe they can create something that they are proud of. I started my class in Block 3. I decided to do it a bit differently than other art classes. We would learn a different form of art every other day. On the first day, we would learn the techniques. And on the second day, the students would have an opportunity to make something themselves. And as surprising as it may seem, I'm not an expert at every form of art I do. So I'd have parent and teacher volunteers come in to help me teach for a day. I was so excited to show everyone what they could do with just their minds. What I didn't realize is how awkward it would feel to be teaching my own friends. I wanted them to learn, but I also didn't want to be strict. But after that feeling faded away, another thing made me take a step back. I realized that most of the kids there were not there to learn new things or to try new things. They were there because it was an easy A. They were doing the things I would tell them to, but I never saw that spark of joy that I get when I'm painting or drawing or making clothing. I knew I couldn't force them to like what I was teaching, and I couldn't force them to show their emotions. They have to do that themselves, and that's a bitter pill to swallow. But one day, I announced that we were going to paint on clothing. And to my surprise, the next day, everyone actually brought in something to paint on. And they were asking me questions, asking me for my advice, and showing me their designs, and this was the first time I saw them fully excited to participate. And at the end of the block, I gave the idea to do a final project. They didn't have to do a final project, but it was highly encouraged, and to my surprise, everyone actually wanted to do something. Some did painting on clothing, some did mixed media art, some did stuff I didn't even teach, like graffiti or architecture. So I continued my class in Block 4, but this time I had the amazing opportunity to paint the yurt next to the art room. And on April 17th, I hosted an art day where I had parent, student, and teacher volunteers all come in to help me to run 8 workshops that all of high school could participate in. See, if I could help as many people as I could, then maybe I could feel better about all the time I wasted in my room doing nothing. During the COVID era, as most people did, I felt that deep hole inside of me. My limbs were always heavy. My eyes didn't want to open. I felt nothing. I felt like I was nothing. I would look in the mirror and hate everything I saw. I gained weight. My acne was terrible. My hair was knotted and gross. I felt like poison. It would run through me and ruin everything I touch. My mom would ask me what was wrong, and I would always say, I don't know. I never knew. How could I know what was going on when I had nothing in my brain? I was in a constant dreamlike state. I didn't know what was real or what was not. Memories of me playing in the grass with my brother, or my dad reading books to me, or my mom dressing me up in the cutest outfits were fading, and I was scared because I didn't want to forget. Because I love my family more than anything else in the world, but how could I talk to them, play cards with them, make dinner with them, if I can even say why I was unhappy? Even when school started again, I finally had hope that I could have a new beginning, but that never happened. I remember one day my mom sat me down, held my hands into hers, and she asked, "What happened to my bundle of joy?" I felt like my heart was getting stabbed, and I felt my throat close up as I repeated the same sentence that made me feel like my life was falling apart. I don't know. One day, I woke up with these ugly brown marks all over my chest and my neck. So then my mom took me to the doctor and got me tested, and it came back as nothing. I knew it. This must be who I am for the rest of my life. But my mom was determined to help me. I saw that flame inside of her that I was envious of. But this wasn't a flame of love for work or her love of horses. This was a flame of love for me. And I realized that I was never alone, that she loved me just as much as I loved her. For weeks, she did her own research, and she came to me so excited, saying, "I think I know what's happening to you. I believe you have a thyroid dysfunction." So she took me to the doctor and got me tested, and she was right. I did have it. When you have a thyroid dysfunction, your metabolism can become really low, and you get really depressed, or your metabolism can get really high, and you become manic. So I started taking meds and going to therapy. Turns out, when my mind gets depressed, it doesn't want to deal with it, so it detaches itself, leaving me in a constant dreamlike state. That's why I was forgetting, and that's why I didn't know what was real or not. This is called disassociation. But I still couldn't find the words to tell people why I wasn't there. So I painted it. And for the first time in years, I felt like people could understand me. So I continued. I painted my childhood. I painted how much shame I would feel. I drew how I see my mind when I'm not doing so good. And sometimes I would just draw to calm myself down and to kindle that fire inside of me. But it wasn't just drawing or painting. I also did fashion. This piece I did was made out of all recycled materials, about how unwanted touch can stay with a person for a lifetime. This was my first fashion line I did. Looking back at it today, there's a lot of things I want to change, but we all have to start somewhere. And this is just some stuff I designed. See, that's why I want to help others who don't know how to say help. But I want to be clear, I didn't wake up with a magical pencil that just cured me. Art was just a thing that helped me communicate. I also found Taoism. Taoism is a philosophy about joy, love, nature, and much more. And I read the Tao of Pooh. The Tao of Pooh is a book explaining how Taoism is actually very similar to Winnie the Pooh, and it was something that I related to, and it became a big part of my identity for the last year. Every morning, me and my dad would read something about Taoism, and it would be the highlight of my day. And every time I learned something new, I'd rush to Pat Gregg to go tell him about it. But it was also my friends. Even though most of the time I never opened up to them, I knew that they were always by my side. And there was also a lot of people who helped me without even realizing it. Just simple acts of kindness every day would push me through. I'd like to thank everyone who helped me with my Greenstone. Ibu Harriet for helping me with my classes, Pac George for helping me with my speech, and all of the parent and teacher and student volunteers that supported me. And as Winnie the Pooh once said, life is a journey to be experienced, not a problem to be solved. So with this, don't be afraid to ask for help. And if you don't know how to ask for help, find another way. There's always another way. Thank you.